Hello. Just a quick reminder that afterwards everyone's really welcome to make an offering to Venerable. We have the katas, the white scarves that we can offer to Venerable. If you feel comfortable, do so. If not, absolutely whatever you wish. We also have our group offering envelope that we'll be presenting to Venerable at the end of the class. And you can also have personal envelopes for offerings like Muni is now doing. So anyhow, so thanks everyone. I'll be getting Venerable in a couple of minutes.
So I just wanted to explain a little bit about the pills from yesterday, because there were some questions about it. The pills, which I'll give out at the end of this session again, they're made in Dharamsala from herbal substances and relic substances. And then they're tiny pills. They're put in big bags. And then all the Sangha and the lay people in Dharamsala get together and recite millions and billions of Om Mani Padme Hungs, which is the mantra of the Buddha of compassion, to kind of infuse compassion into the pills. So the way you take them is you can take them now, you can save them for later, when you're sick or when something's happening or whatever. You can swallow them whole, or you can just dissolve them in your mouth. But whenever it is that you take them, excuse me, it's good to recite Om Mani Padme Hum and to imagine Chenrezig, the Buddha of compassion, in front of you or above your head, and light from Chenrezig flowing into you, purifying negative karma and bringing the understanding of compassion, the experience of compassion. Excuse me. When I talk a lot, my voice gets like this. Yeah, so that's about the pills, yeah. Then what I thought this afternoon, what we would do, is at the Abbey we have a way of doing discussion groups that people really enjoy. And so it begins with a meditation. I'll lead a meditation, ask you some questions in it that give you an opportunity to think about your personal responses to the questions, just in your own mind, in your meditation. And then after that, we break up into small groups, about 5 people each. If you're with a relative or a good friend, you go to different groups. And then everybody shares their reflections about the questions. So each person goes one at a time and speaks about all the questions at one shot. And until everybody in the group has gone around and spoken, there's no crosstalk or discussion. So that way everybody gets to speak and everybody has to speak. So you speak, 3-4 minutes, something like that, not your whole life story, but, enough. And then once everybody has spoken, then there can be some crosstalk and some dialogue. Okay, so we've done this a lot at the Abbey, and people really like it because the idea is to get you to think about the Dharma in relationship to your own life, and then share your reflections with other people. Because many people say to me when they go to a Dharma center, everybody comes for the teachings and meditation, but then when they talk afterwards, they all chit-chat about nothing really worthwhile. Whereas this gives people a chance to get to know each other on a deeper level and to get used to discussing the Dharma together and sharing their personal practice. Okay? And so I leave when you guys break into small groups, and then I come back and we do some debriefing, and then I'll kind of do some more on good karma. Okay? So that's the afternoon. What else do I need to say about that? Maybe, I was going to tell you the topic. Because we've been talking a lot about speech, and I thought it might be good to reflect a little bit on the different non-virtuous actions of speech, lying, divisive talk, harsh speech where we're saying things deliberately to hurt other people's feelings, and then idle talk, where we're just kind of talking because we like to hear ourselves talk, and not really making good use of our time or consuming other people's time just with chatter, gossiping, talking about stuff that really isn't meaningful in any way. Okay, so we'll make up some questions, and then we'll reflect on those and then break into the discussion groups, okay? Good. Okay, so let's start out with just some breathing meditation like we did before, so you can calm your mind down. So I know that meditation is not the ideal activity after lunch, but the meditation now won't be too long, so don't fall asleep. And then once we start with the questions, you'll have a chance to think a little bit about them, okay? So just release any tension in your body and then come back to your breath and watch your breath for a couple of minutes. So reflect a little on the four non-virtues of speech. So lying, and then divisive speech that creates disharmony among people. Harsh speech that hurts others' feelings, such as teasing or ridiculing or insulting, verbally abusing, and so on. And then the fourth is idle talk, talking about things that really aren't worthwhile, that just use up a lot of time, and talking for no good reason or basically just to amuse ourselves, hear ourselves talk. So reflect on each one and see which one is the biggest problem for you in your life? Of those four, which one do you think causes you the most problems, or which one do you get involved in the most easily? And looking at the one of the four that is the most difficult one for you, causes you the most problems, then look at it more closely and ask yourself, under what conditions does this arise? So what are the usual external conditions that make me speak in that way? And what are the usual internal conditions? How am I feeling? What am I thinking about? What emotion or idea provokes me to speak in this way? Okay, so do that bit of research on one of the four. You know, what conditions externally prompt you to speak like that, and what internal conditions prompt that kind of speech. then after you speak in that way, how do you feel about yourself? And how does that kind of speech influence the person you talk to? And how does it influence your relationship with other people? So what's the effect, the immediate effects of whichever kind of speech you've chosen to investigate? And then what ideas do you have for counteracting that type of speech? What can you do to stop the causes, changing the external situation, or working with your internal motivation, your internal emotions about it, or purifying the habit to speak like that? So what ideas do you have for reversing that way of speaking and creating a new way of speaking that is more effective and also kinder? Okay, so to review the questions of the four non-virtuous ways of speaking, lying, divisive words, harsh speech, idle talk, which one is most problematic for you in your life in terms of creating problems now, making you feel not good about yourself, creating the negative karma that will bring unhappiness in future. Okay. And then second, what are the conditions or causes that make you speak that way? So in what kind of circumstances do you do that kind of speech? With what kind of people? What are the external things that contribute to it? And then what are the internal things? What kind of moods? What kind of emotions do you have? And so on, that needs that make you speak in that way in an attempt to meet your needs. A third question is, are the effects of speaking like that? So here we were talking a lot about the immediate effects of your relationships with other people, how it affected the specific person you were talking to or talking about, how it affects your feeling about yourself, and of course how it affects future lives and your spiritual path. And then the last question was what ideas do you have for changing that way of speech? You know, especially if it's a habitual one, then how can you change it so that you feel better about what you're saying and it brings better results for you? Okay, so just your creative ideas here. Okay, so then just to review the format, break up into groups of 5 or 6 people, and we're not going to number off. You just find a few others and sit in a circle. Everybody goes around and speaks for a few minutes, sharing their reflections to those questions. And during that time, there's no crosstalk. Then after that time, you can, discuss amongst yourself. And how about if you take about 40 minutes to do that? And then I'll come back and we'll debrief. But it shouldn't sound like a coffee house with everybody talking and laughing in here at once. Okay? So, remember, it's just one person at a time speaking, and, separate out. You can go into different corners of the room or go into a different room if you want to. Okay, so just find a few extra people and start, sharing your reflections. Okay. So, what were some of the points in your discussion that really struck you, and especially when you were listening to other people kind of explain the outer and inner conditions and their ideas for how to change those? You know, what kind of really hit you and gave you some ideas of what you can do, or some insights into your own situation? Yeah.
Well, two people in my group talked about bodily feelings that they felt prior to engaging in these non-vicious actions of speech, and how their antidotes for stopping those actions would be to recognize those bodily feelings and then realize that they were about to engage, that was going to propel them into engaging in these actions. And I thought that was really helpful to just remember that sometimes it manifests in a very visceral way, and if we can train ourselves to sort of recognize that quality, then maybe we can stop.
Yeah.
That might be
Is there a hand like somewhere?
Who's next?
Say it again? Sure. I was just remarking about how there were two people in our group who when they were talking about the antidote to engaging in these non-virtues of speech, mentioned that they noticed that there's a sort of bodily, visceral feeling that they could notice preceding their sort of, action. And so maybe learning how to train ourselves to recognize in our body how these states of feeling emerge can maybe be helpful. At least for me, it was very helpful to think of that as a way of sort of recognizing how it can come up and then stop it before it happens.
Yeah. And that can be very helpful, because sometimes, it takes a while for sometimes for strong emotions to grow, and we don't notice them until they're in our face. Whereas if you're able to be in touch with your body, very often you can notice things arising because you're getting tight, you're getting tense, your palms are getting sweaty, your heartbeat's quickening. And that can give you a lot of emotion about a lot of information about emotions that are starting to rise. And the earlier you can catch something, then the easier it is to stop it coming out of your mouth or coming out in physical actions. Yeah. Yeah. Want to pass the mic?
Is it working? Okay. So in our group, almost all of us were dealing with harsh speech. It seemed to be the big hot topic. And but I think what everybody was saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that it doesn't work to get us what we want, which is often, love or an appropriate response from the person we're being harsh with. And so I think the consciousness that it doesn't work is really powerful, and if in your practice you're getting more mindful, that you're finally able to see that in itself can help you look for other ways to deal with things. And definitely the visceral feeling, just sitting with that feeling and letting it pass, or doing something that was a way for people to work with it too.
Yeah. My mom used to say, "Don't knock your head against the wall." So, yeah, very wise, actually. Because who's going to win? The wall is going to win, isn't it? So in a similar way, when we keep doing the same behavior that isn't producing the results we want, it's like knocking our head against the wall. It's some useless action that's actually painful for us. Yeah. So if we recognize that and recognize the disturbance it makes in our mind, that gives us some courage to drop it. Yeah. Instead of just persevering, doing the same. There's some slogan that's going about, doing the same thing many times and expecting a different result. Yeah, that's the definition of insanity. Yeah, yeah. Okay, but that's what we do. Yeah. So, to realize that and just say, this is one of the most difficult things, I think, for us, is to say, I cannot control this. Because we tend to be, now, again, I'm not talking about you, but some people out there tend to be control freaks. We gotta control everything. And it drives us crazy, because we can't we? Yeah, we're trying to control everybody else, which we can't. The only thing we can possibly control or maybe manage is what's going on in here, but we don't try to do anything with that. Yeah, but that's the only thing we can really change. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the harsh speech kind of came up as a recurring theme in our group too. But what I found interesting was the reasons for it. Mm-hmm. It all ran from a feeling of loss of control, in the process of losing control, or I'll be damned if I'm giving up control. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like the same reactions, but for very different reasons, but on the same theme.
Right.
And it was I found that really, really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It all centers on control, doesn't it?
And even people who they're doing, it's like one example but they were handling their situation perfectly, and it was still biting them in the butt no matter what they did, mm-hmm. which makes things, very complicated.
Yeah, about control and control and desperately wanting to have our way are really good buddies. Yeah. And I want to have my way. Why? Because my way is the best way. Why is it the best? Because it's my way. Yeah? And then, of course, we get really bummed out when we can't control things, and especially other people, to make them be what we want them to be. Mm-hmm. And that's when we keep knocking our head against the wall. Yeah. I had my own little episode with that not too long ago. And one of my Dharma friends was commenting about watching one of her spiritual mentors, a Tibetan, and he would really put his heart into trying to benefit his students. But when he saw that somebody was not receptive, he just gently put that down and went on to benefit other people who were receptive. And I thought that's a really good example of doing it. Instead of being so fixated on one person, and I've got to change this person and make them into what I want them to be, when they clearly aren't receptive and we can't control them, then where can we be of best use in this planet? With people who are receptive, and who do want to share, hear our thoughts on whatever. So it's better, if we're feeling frustrated in one area, then share our energy in another area where it's going to be more effective, because what we have to give matches better with what the people want to receive. Anything else about speech? Was the discussion helpful for you? Yeah. So I hope it opens the door for you to talk with your Dharma friends more about things about practice like this, instead of chatting about movies and so on. Don't tell me about them. Okay, so we'll go back to good karma. Yeah, unless there's anything more about this. Okay, so I wanted to touch a little bit on some of the verses in the second half of the book. So not all the first half of the book is along the style that I just did, and not all of the second half is on the style that I'm going to do. But I think it's quite helpful. So in the second half, he talks about, in the middle, between the first half and second half, he talks about recognizing what is really the enemy. Okay, the enemy being twofold. One is the self-centered thought that thinks that we are the most important one in the world. And the other is the self-grasping egoism, our concept of self, which reifies who we think we are. Okay, so we're in fact people who exist dependent on other factors, but we think of ourselves as an independent entity. And of course, the moment we become an independent entity with a real me, then we have to protect me. And then we get attached to the things that bring us happiness. We get angry and upset with the things that produce unhappiness. And then off we go, in our usual daily life of fighting with the environment. And, which we do a lot. We're fighting with the environment because I want this and I don't want that, and that's not what's in the environment around me. Yeah? So instead of being able to just accept what is, we fight it. Yeah. Accepting what is doesn't mean we become apathetic. It just means that what is. Yeah, the causes and conditions have ripened. This is what the present is. You can't change the present. We can change the future. But we have to accept the present and then think of how we can improve situations in the future. But so often we don't accept the present, and we want it to be different than it is. But of course it is what it is, and how can we change what is? We can only change what hasn't yet come. Okay? So, when things change in our relationships, when there's impermanence, or when our health changes, there's impermanence in that too, we get really rattled, I refuse to accept that, the relationship changed, that my health changed, that, this is happening or that isn't happening. Yeah. So we battle just the reality, which drives us buggy. Okay? So we identify those two enemies, that self-centered mind and the self-grasping mind. So all in the second half, many of the verses have the same refrain, which is dance and trample on the head of this betrayer of false conception, mortally strike at the heart of this butcher and enemy, the self. So when it says dance and trample on the head of this betrayer of false conceptions, it's talking about our self-grasping, ignorance, our self-centered thought, mortally strike at the heart of this butcher and enemy, the self. It doesn't mean to kill ourself. Doesn't mean that. It means to stop this wrong conception of the self. Yeah? So the wrong conception that thinks we are an independent, inherently existent person, the wrong conception that thinks we are the most important ones. Mm-hmm. Both of them are very difficult to overcome. Yeah, very difficult. And it takes a lot of practice. And the key, I think, to the practice is seeing that these two things actually are our enemy. Until we are firmly convinced that they are what hampers our happiness, we won't try and get rid of them. So we're willing to admit, okay, yes, when I'm very selfish, that's a problem. But inside, my selfishness is what's keeping me alive. If I don't care about myself, nobody else will. If I don't work for myself, nobody else will. Yeah, if I don't protect myself, I'm going to get walked all over and people will take advantage of me. Yeah, so we have that very strongly. But to be able to see that tight kind of self-centeredness is what makes us so totally ego-sensitive. Last night we were talking about it. When we're very ego-sensitive, everything gets filtered through the perspective of me. And so we inflate the importance of many, many things that actually have nothing to do with us. Yeah? So I always use this example because it's true and because it's stupid. Okay? When you're in a work situation or even at your family, if you in the morning come in and your family member doesn't say good morning and look at you, yeah, or you walk into your office and somebody keeps working and they don't look at you and say good morning, then it's very easy. The self-centered thought takes off and runs with that ball. I came into the kitchen this morning, my friend, partner, whoever it is, they didn't look at me and say good morning. They must be mad at me. Oh no, I did another bad thing. What did I do this time that makes them mad at me? So we either turn to self-blame or, oh, so he's in a bad mood again today and he's dumping it on me and he's mad at me even though I didn't do anything. So already we're getting really worked up, blaming ourselves, blaming the other person, getting upset, all because somebody didn't look up from what they were doing and say good morning. Petty? Yes. Important to the self-centered thought? Incredibly important. Yeah. And we really work up a story. I had a friend who worked for NPR for a while, and he was in an office with another man, and the other guy never talked to him, never said hello. And my friend Peter just thought, this guy doesn't like me, or he's jealous, he doesn't think that reports I do on NPR are very good, and that's why he won't talk to me. Or he's jealous of me because he thinks the thing I do is good, and so he's jealous, and the guy just doesn't like me, and here I am working in the office with somebody who doesn't like me, and what did I do? And it makes working here so unpleasant because this guy never looks up and talks to me, you know. And it was really bothering him. And then one day, the guy came up and said, "Oh, I really liked the piece that you did on whatever it was." And they started talking to each other. And Peter realized that all these stories that he had been inventing and all the aggravation he was experiencing was completely made up by his mind. None of it pertained to the situation of this other man. Yeah? The other man had always admired him. I think he was a little shy, so he never said anything. But Peter had this whole story going. So, dare I say, dare I hint, dare I imply that we do the same thing too? Yeah? And sometimes you can see it so clearly. You know, there's some people, every small thing gets filtered through them. Yeah? Others of us, you know, different things get filtered, but it's so important. I'll give you a personal story here. I had, in one of the book projects I was doing, signed a contract. I was supposed to be the editor. I made some choices about what to put in, because it was a manuscript about a conference. So I put in some things, I left out other things. Some of the people who gave speeches were not happy that I left their speeches out, you know, because we were asking advice from an expert, so I put more of the expert's responses in the text instead of the questions. Well, these other people didn't like it. They talked to the publisher, blah, blah, blah. I felt betrayed by the people I worked with, by the publisher, and I was trying to be the moderator between the expert and these people, and nobody was respecting me, and I was so unhappy, bent out of shape, and the book contract got canceled. And then I went to India for His Holiness's teachings. And after I was walking back to my room one afternoon after His Holiness's teachings, thinking again about this problem. They did this and they wanted this and they, you know, the problems in America, I'm in India, half the planet around, didn't matter. I was angry. And then the thought entered my mind that there's 7 billion people on this planet and I'm the only one who is this bummed out about what happened. You know, this whole thing that is so upsetting. You know, 1 out of 7 billion human beings is unhappy about it. That person, of course, just happens to be me. And then it really made me see, boy, what I am spinning around is ridiculous. If I'm the only person who is this unhappy about it, then it really isn't a big deal. Yeah? It really isn't a big deal. So that helped me a lot just to put it down. Mm-hmm. But it's hard sometimes to give up our self-investment in something that we think is true and right, and the existence of the universe depends on it. Yeah? Because we've inflated it way big, and it isn't that big. Okay? So you have to see this again and again and again in your life and really become convinced of how that self-centered thought is the real enemy. It's not what the other people did. It's the yarn I'm spinning that's making me miserable. Okay, so in the middle of the book, there's several verses about this, identifying what the real problem is. Then in the second part of the book, it's talking about what we do. Okay, so let's pick some verses here. Okay, here's a good one. See if this describes anybody you know. Though my wish for happiness is great, I do not gather its causes. Although I have little endurance for pain, I am rife with dark craving of greed. Dance and trample on the head of this betrayer, false conception, mortally strike at the heart of this butcher and enemy, the self. So in the first section of the book, we saw these negative experiences we were having. We traced them back to karmic causes. We realized that behind all of our destructive karmic actions was the self-centered thought and the self-grasping ignorance. And now we're looking at other behaviors that we do motivated by those two enemies and catching them as the enemies. So what do? Though my wish for happiness is great, I do not gather its causes. Yeah? So the karmic causes for happiness, yeah, or even worldly practical causes for happiness. Do we really put our energy into creating the causes for what we want? Or do we just expect the universe to give it to us because I'm me and I'm precious and the universe should be so happy to have me in it that I should get what I want all the time? Yeah? We want to have good friendships. How much do we try to be a good friend to other people? And how much do we just expect them to be good friends to us without us trying to be a good friend to them? Yeah. We want to be wealthy. The karmic cause of wealth is generosity. Are we generous? When it comes to making offerings on the altar, do we give something that's, do we give the nicest apples and oranges we got from the store, or do we give the ones that are starting to go off and put those on the altar? All sorts of questions like this. Yeah? What does our generosity look like? Yeah, having a human rebirth is the result of ethical conduct. Do we put energy into ethical conduct, or are we kind of justifying, rationalizing, denying, twisting the facts so that we look good, at least to ourselves? Okay? So this is, this is a line that you can imagine saying to a child. You want to be happy, but you aren't creating the causes for happy, Susie and Johnny. If you want to get an A, you have to work hard. Yeah. So we think it's a verse that, that we can imagine saying to kids. But this is a verse we have to say to ourselves too. Yeah, are we creating the cause for the happiness we want? Okay. Though I have little endurance for pain, I am rife with the dark craving of greed. Okay. So I don't want to be inconvenienced. I don't want to endure anything that's painful or discomfort. But I'm craving and greedy and I want all these things. And I don't want to have to put out any energy to get them. I expect the universe to serve me on a silver platter. Why? Because I'm me. Yeah? So it's quite interesting when we really look at how the self-centered mind thinks. kind of ugly, but we have to admit it, you know. Okay, how about some more? Oh, here's another good one. Though I want immediate results, my efforts to achieve them are feeble. Though I pursue many tasks, I never complete a single one. Dance and trample on the head of this betrayer, false conception. Mortally strike at the heart of this butcher and enemy, the self. Okay, so what does our self-centered thought make us do? I want immediate results, don't we? Immediate results. But my efforts to achieve them are very feeble. Yeah? I want to learn something, but I don't really make much of an effort for it. I want something to happen. Again, I don't make much effort. Especially in our Dharma practice, you know. We want to get somewhere in our Dharma practice, but I really can't wake up early in the morning, you know. Unless it's to go to some important event. That's going to be a lot of fun. Then I can wake up early in the morning. Yeah. But I can't wake up early in the morning to do my practice. Yeah. So we want immediate results, but we don't want to put in the effort. So this, again, it sounds like a verse for a college student or a high school student, doesn't it? You know, you want to get into a good school? You better study hard, get good grades, get good scores on your SAT. Don't cut class. Okay, we give that advice, but when we look at our own selves, yeah, we want immediate results, but our efforts to achieve them are feeble. We pursue many tasks, but never complete a single one. Okay, so there's so many things we're interested in, so many things we want to do. So we sign up for this, we sign up for that, we volunteer for this, we volunteer for that, you know, and when we're volunteering and we're signing up, we're really enthusiastic, we're really sincere, but we never stop to think, do I have the time to do this? Yeah, so you know, this is the typical problem at Dharma centers or any volunteer organization. People come in, they are inspired, they're sincere, they sign up, and then they don't turn up. And they don't tell you they're not coming. They just disappear. And in the meantime, you're waiting for something to be done, and it's not being done. And then you call them a few days beforehand and say, what's happening? And they say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really busy, I can't do it. And then you're left holding the bag. Okay? Now, I know none of you do that. Yeah. But we do that, don't we? Yeah? We don't stop to think beforehand. Is this something I have the time to do? Is this something I have the skills to do? Is this something that I can remain enthusiastic about doing until I complete it? So we start a class at the community college and we drop it. We start learning to do a certain sport and we drop it. We join a club and we drop it. We volunteer to do this at a homeless shelter, and we forget about it. We volunteered to do that at the hospital. We don't show up. Yeah, we make lots of promises to people. Yeah, but we don't really come through. And it never bothers us that we don't come through. And when another person is really annoyed and says how inconvenienced they are, we kind of look at them like, why are you so bothered about this? It's just something small. But for them, when they're counting on us fulfilling our pledge, it's not something small. Okay? So, we have to really think and consider things well before promising to do things, In other words, not being so impulsive. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't volunteer to do anything and we should analyze everything to death before we volunteer. But it means we should just really think, what do I have on my plate right now, and what can I realistically do, and what can't I do? Okay? Though I pursue many tasks, I never complete a single one. Yeah? Do you know people like that? They start many, many things, never complete anything. Yeah? So many half-done paintings, so many half-done home improvement projects, so many half-done novels that they're writing, so many half-done, many different things. Yeah? They can't seem to follow through and complete something. Yeah? So if we have that problem, it's something to pay attention to. Yeah? Because especially in our spiritual practice, if we want to get somewhere in it, it needs consistent effort. Yeah? Oh, here's another one. Though I am eager to make new friends, my loyalty and friendships are short-lived. Though I aspire for resources, I seek them through theft and extortion. Dance and trample on the head of this betrayer, false conception, mortally strike at the heart of this butcher and enemy, the self. Okay, so what's self-centered thought making us do now? I am eager to make new friends. Yeah, we make all sorts of new friends, like somebody on Facebook, exchange, WeChat, whatever it is, and like, we're going to be really good friends with this person, make all sorts of things. But nothing ever lasts. The friendships don't last. Yeah. We're not very loyal to our friends. Yeah. We like them when they're amusing, when they agree with our ideas. But when they start maybe telling us things that we need to work on, even though we know what they say is true, then we stop liking them. Yeah? Not so loyal. So loyalty is an interesting thing, because I think loyalty is important, but wisdom in loyalty is also important. Because sometimes we're loyal out of obligation or out of fear or out of the idea I must be loyal, but what we're loyal to is not very ethical and not very healthy and not very good. But we're loyal to it anyway. That's the wrong kind of loyalty. Yeah. The good kind of loyalty is when we see something that's beneficial and healthy and good, then to stick with it, And when we meet people who are going to be good friends to us, to treasure their friendships and really make effort at those friendships. Okay. My loyalty and friendships are short-lived. Yeah.
Hi. I have a friend who I've helped, who wants more from me than I am willing to give.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to deal with that.
You just say, I realize that you need this, but I'm sorry I'm unable to fulfill this. You're just honest. Yeah, I realize that you would like my companionship more, but I'm sorry because I have other things that I have to do in my life. it's nothing against you, but there's other things that I have commitments for. All you do is tell the truth, you know, and express some empathy that this person wants it. You acknowledge what they want, and then you acknowledge, you know, what you can do and what you can't do. Yeah. It's so interesting, you know, because I get tangled up sometimes in like, this is going on, what do I say, what do I say? And you know, it always comes down just to saying what's true. And to say what's true in a nice tone of voice. Yeah, we don't need to protect the other person. They're an adult. You know, I'm sure your friends are grown up. They know that not everybody can give them everything they want. And you just say that. It's interesting.
I don't know why it feels so hard.
Yeah, it does feel hard. Because why it feels so hard is because you are assuming responsibility for her happiness or his happiness. Are you responsible for that person's happiness? You are responsible for your behavior so that you act with integrity and you act with kindness. But can you make that person happy? You can't make anybody happy except yourself. So we're responsible for being kind, for being truthful, for, you know, being fair and honest with the person. But we are not taking on the commitment to make them happy ever, forever and ever, because nobody else can do that for somebody. Yeah? So I find we sentient beings are so funny sometimes. We take responsibility for things that are not our responsibility, and we abdicate responsibility for things that are our responsibility. Yeah? Okay? We're so strange. And if you look at it, so many situations, you know, I'm responsible for somebody else's happiness. You know, they're an adult. They know how to live their life. Why do I think that I'm responsible for their happiness? I'm responsible for acting with integrity towards them. I'm responsible for acting with kindness towards them, but I'm not responsible for making them happy. I can't do 15 backflips and dance on a trapeze and to guarantee they're going to be happy. Yeah, but things that are my responsibility, like when I'm mad at somebody and I don't want to say anything directly, so I say something kind of like this to really hurt somebody, to let them know that I'm upset. And then when they come and say, why did you say that? We act really innocent, like, oh, what did I say? I didn't, oh, you misinterpreted what I said. Okay, but we're actually responsible because we had the intention to hurt their feelings. But we won't own up to it. Okay, so, yeah.
You know, she said in his book, you can be your own therapist. Quote, on page 113, it says, and I don't know if it relates to what she was saying, different kinds of mind perceive different colors, and I take that literally, and I don't know if it's meant to be taken literally.
What does he say before that?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I know that's important.
Because I'd have to see what he said before it. You know, do we have the book around? Yeah. Lama has all sorts of interesting statements, but you have to see what he's saying. On page what did you? 113. Okay. 113. Something about colors.
Different kind of minds perceive different colors. Wellness book, wellness site.
Oh, okay. The question is, in Tibetan paintings, how do colors correspond with states of meditation or different psychological states? Okay. And then Lama's answers, different kinds of mind perceive different colors. We say when we are angry that we see red. That's a good example. Other states of mind visualize their own respective colors. In some cases where people are emotionally disturbed and unable to function in their daily lives, surrounding them with certain colors can help them settle down. If you think about this, you will discover the color really comes from the mind. When you get angry and see red, is that color internal or external? Think about it. We also say you turn green with envy. Yeah. But also green represents success and it represents growth. It doesn't just represent energy. And red can represent anger, but it can also represent like real passion for something. You know, something you're really sincere and enthusiastic about. Yeah. So colors, when we visualize the different deities, the color evokes some kind of feeling in us. It helps us get in touch with certain feelings, certain mental states. Okay? Good book, highly recommended. Other questions about that? Okay, where are we? Oh, almost out of time. Okay, one more verse. Here's another good one. Well, they're all good. Because of fickleness, I cast afar my past friendships. Infatuated with novelty, I talk animatedly to everyone. Dance and trample on the head of this betrayer, false conception. Mortally strike the heart of this butcher, the enemy, the self. Okay? Because of fickleness, I cast afar my past friendships. Yeah, you're amusing now, but I got tired of you. And now you're amusing, and that's nice, and then I got tired of you. And then you're amusing, and you stop to be amusing. Okay, so you see some people like go through boyfriends or girlfriends, one right after the other. Yeah, it's a lot of fickleness in the mind. Yeah, so we let go of past friendships. It's kind of related to the previous one. We don't have a good sense of loyalty and appreciation for someone's good qualities. So we're kind of fickle. Infatuated with novelty, I talk animatedly to everyone. So I want all the newest, greatest things. I want the newest, bestest friends who have good connections, who know important people, who can take me places and do things with me. And I talk animatedly to everybody about all this new stuff, because then everybody will like me and they think that I know the most about all the newest gadgets. Yeah, and we're like this, and then we're fickle and we drop them and we change our mind. Okay? So, there's, yeah? This is verse 81. Okay, on page 169. So, yeah, we're fickle, aren't we? Yeah, we have fickle minds. Again, just whatever happens to be amusing and entertaining at this moment without thinking of developing something over the long term. I see this sometimes in people's Dharma practice. You know, they start out the Dharma so enthusiastic. You know, they come to everything, they're engaged in everything. Then they request special teachings. So then I'll give, or the teacher will give, a special teaching to the group, and the person who requested it does not attend. I can't tell you how many times that has happened. Yeah? But, you know, the people are just enthralled with something new, and then they get tired of it. So I've noticed, you know, you might be practicing Dharma fairly consistently. If you lose your job, you stop practicing it. If you're unemployed and then you get a job, you stop practicing. Okay? I've seen that when there's a change in life, people kind of drop their practice. Yeah? When you're sick and you get well, you stop practicing. Or when you're well and you fall sick, then you abandon your practice. Yeah? And so this kind of very fickle mind doesn't serve us well in life, because we never get anywhere with anything. Yeah? And especially with Dharma practice, like I said, it really takes consistence in our practice, because we're really trying to retrain our mind and establish good habits in the mind. And you know, we can't do it in 1 day or 2 days. It's something that takes repeated effort over a period of time. Yeah? You know, the kinds of things that you tell your children. Yeah? Don't worry you fell off the bike today. It takes a while to learn how to ride the bike. Don't get discouraged because of today. Just keep trying. We'll help you. You'll learn to ride your bike. Yeah, we say to the children. We need to say that to ourselves. Yeah. Okay, you overslept this morning, but let's get back on track. I woke up late. I'm going to do my practice even though I'm a bit late. And then in the future, I'm going to make sure I get to bed early enough so I can get up in the morning and do my practice. Okay. So, like I said, Dhammarakshita, the author of the poem, really hits the nail on the head. Okay? But it's good, because the more we're able to read these verses and think about them, they're so helpful for getting knowledge about ourselves and for changing some of these bad habits that lead us astray, both here and now, and that create the causes that lead us astray in future lives and inhibit our attaining spiritual realizations. Okay? Got it? Yeah? We can do it. We can do it. The Buddha did it. If the Buddha can do it, you know, because the Buddha was once somebody like us. Buddha wasn't born Buddha all the time, you know. Buddha was once our gambling friend, you know, or the continuity of the person who is now Shakyamuni Buddha. Many, many eons ago was our friend that we used to go drinking and drugging and gambling with in that particular lifetime. But then after that, you know, the continuity of that person learned the Dharma, started practicing the Dharma, did it very well, became fully awakened. Yeah, why aren't we fully awakened? Because we kept, you know, drinking and drugging, or going to the beach, or reading sci-fi books, or, you know, anything but practice the Dharma. And so that's why our old pal attained enlightenment before we did. But we all have the same Buddha nature. We all have the same capability. So it's a thing of really seeing our capability, seeing our potential, and then doing something. Yeah? Instead of, well, yeah, that would be a good idea. I really should do that. But first I'll take a nap. And then our nap lasts a few lifetimes. Okay? And we lose the opportunity. So, but we have that potential, so we should just, whatever we're capable of doing, do it and rejoice. And know that we can improve as we go along. Okay, so let's sit quietly for a minute. Little digestion meditations. You can recall the things that really sparked your interest and struck your heart, so you can continue to think about them later on. Rejoice the merit that we created as individuals and as a group, and rejoice at all the goodness in the world. And then send that out to all living beings everywhere in the form of the light at your heart, and as your merit in the form of light goes out to all beings and touches them, really think that their ignorance, self-centeredness, and so on are pacified so that they can develop their good qualities, and that they do develop their good qualities. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So it was a short time with you, but I hope it was beneficial, and I was quite happy to be here with you. You have a very good teacher here in Geshe-la, so you should really take advantage and learn as much as you possibly can from him. Yeah? And take advantage of your precious human life and really learn the Dharma and practice it. You're also all invited out to the Abbey. We have programs out there, and some people come for programs or retreats. Some people come just to spend time in the community. So you're all welcome. I'm sorry I didn't bring brochures, but I guess if you Google my name, and Shrivasti Abbey will also come up, and you can find out about the Abbey. Okay? Good. And if you didn't get pills last night and you want them, please come up. I'm happy to give you.
Thank you so much, Venerable. On behalf of Kurukulla Center, please come back and teach as many times as Venerables in Boston.
Okay.
Always
Thank you.
welcome. Even
Okay.
if it's just for 1 hour.
I always say, I'll come back if you come back, because it's a dependent arising. Yeah, we both have to commit to this. Okay. Sure. Thank you.